you know you're not completely anonymous anymore. I've seen your belly button. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And I didn't know you could get that big. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And I don't love you. I don't even know you. Tandy Woodard.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Spooderman, Brand New Day.
Brand
Did
New
I say it right?
You did. You got it right, which is great.
Spooderman.
Spoon Man.
Disrespectful.
Very disrespectful. Tandy, listen. Okay, so we got, hold on, Topam fan, we got a lot going on. First and foremost, Tandy, a.k.a. Jonathan Blade, is in the building. What up, sir?
How are you? I am here. I'm so geeked. You guys have no idea. I'm going to calm down and be all smooth and cool, but give me a minute because this is awesome.
We're very happy to have you.
We're thrilled to have you here. We talked about this, I think maybe, I think every year we've kind of said, we got to get him on the podcast at some point, because every year you send us a voice memo or some kind of interview rap or part of the top 10 of the year. And it's always like, man, that guy's got a great voice. And then I do listen to your podcast as well. I just want to shout out for listeners of the podcast who may not be as familiar with your voice as we are. Tandy is a member of the Geeks Under the Influence podcast network, a former co-host of the Smack My Pitch Up, and my handle is Jonathan Blade, which is how we've known you because of the emails that you sent us. And current host of the Elder Blurred, Tandy Woodard, is here to join us on the podcast today after chiming in for so many years and being such a supportive listener. We've been dying to have you on. So thank you again for joining us on such short notice as well to talk about possibly the biggest movie on the planet in any given year.
Thank you, Matt and Shahir. Yes, it is the biggest movie probably of the year. This might end up being bigger than Doomsday.
Yeah, which is an odd thing to think, but I imagine we're kind of on track for that.
It currently it is the second only. It is the quickest to get to $1 billion, second only to Avengers Endgame. In terms of box office history right now. Now, again, does that take into account films like Ninja 2, which we talked about on this podcast? I don't know if the accounting kind of measures up against those movies. But it's fascinating that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has taken a little bit of a gap, doesn't show any sign of superhero fatigue at this point.
Well, because I don't think it was superhero fatigue. I think it was mid-movie fatigue. I think that's kind of where we were at.
And I don't think this has anything to do with the MCU.
Where do you think it lies in relation to?
This is a Spider-Man brand proposal here. I mean, Spider-Man is one of the biggest entertainment brands on the planet, like well outside of anything that's appeared in the MCU. The MCU was seasonal. Spider-Man is kind of evergreen.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. We talked about this several years ago, I think, with a friend of the show, Nick Lowe, who's also an editor at Marvel, and this is just based off my reading on the book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios by Dave Gonzalez, Joanna Robinson, and Gavin Edwards. But there's a fascinating entry in that book where Avi Arad is really talking about the fact that he thinks about Spider-Man in the same way that Disney thinks about Mickey Mouse, in terms of how important that character is to Marvel, the brand. And I think he's been absolutely correct about that. Like, I do think Spider-Man as a brand or as a, piece of intellectual property is as significant as Mickey Mouse to both the American culture and particularly New York culture as well at this stage. Like, Spider-Man is certainly like a New York icon, like the Knicks or Cat Towns at this point.
100%. I mean, we all remember Spider-Man being in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for as long as we've lived. So yeah, he's huge.
It also much bigger in that parade. But the interesting thing here is Sheer asked me to try to essentially, we'll talk about this in a minute, rank our favorite, or rank the Spider-Man films in order of worst to best, or in whatever order we'd like. And I realized that there have been 12 films with the name Spider-Man in the title. Now, I don't know off the top of my head if that's like the character that's been in the most movies about a superhero. You maybe with Iron Man and all the Avengers and a couple other things, or maybe there's a couple other different characters that have popped up in other movies, more possibly Batman, etc. But there are 12 films with the words Spider-Man in them. And I think that Yeah.
I have 11. Am I missing one? I've got.
Oh, you're right. 11. I have an honorable mention. There are 11 films. Pardon me. You're right.
Although, if you go to theinverse.com this week,
12.
Blanca
it's 12. Spider-Man
has
Lotus?
written
the what?
Spider-Man Lotus.
I didn't count Spider-Man Lotus. I did count the Spider-Man 1977 made-for-TV movie from CBS.
They released the Web of the Dragon or whatever, I think, in the theater.
Did they?
I think it got a limited theatrical run.
Hot damn. All right, I got to change my rankings now.
That was a TV arc.
I only have 11. I only have 11 on my list, but as I mentioned again, Siddhanta Dlanka on theinverse.com has a ranking of all the Spider-Man movies, including the CBS made-for-TV movies. There's miniseries in there as well, and I think a couple of Turkish Spider-Man and possibly an Indian Spider-Man as well that he actually bravely watched. I only have 11 on my list, but that's cool. I don't have an inferiority complex about it.
I just think going back to it to both of your points, Spider-Man is now I don't know if he's no, you know what? I'll say it. I think he's more ubiquitous than Mickey Mouse at this point. Like, I think Mickey Mouse as a symbol, like with the three shapes to make Mickey's head, perhaps might be more recognizable. However, I'll tell you this. I guarantee you almost anyone on the street could tell you one fact about the personal life of Spider-Man Peter Parker, whereas I don't think anyone can tell you a damn thing about Mickey Mouse other than he drove that steamboat one time.
Mickey's not a living entity. He's not active. He's not dynamic in the way that Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
Like, they're always trying to make money directly off of Spider-Man. So there's always some Spider-Man media out there at any given point in time. I don't know that the same is true for Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that Mickey Mouse is Spider-Man's boss at this point in our world. Like, he is the head honcho at this point of Spider-Man and all Spider-Man's IP.
Doesn't have to be active. He collects the money.
That's right.
He does. Yeah. He's Spider-Man's pimp.
There's a new. I don't have children. Shahir, yours might be too old. There is the Spidey and His Amazing Friends cartoon that every one of my friends with kids, it's like crack at this point. And so I think it's like fueling a whole brand new generation, even very, very young, into getting into both Peter, Miles, and Gwen. And I think that's another reason why. I mean, they're being very smart with it. They're hitting it from all age brackets.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah, 100%. And no, my son watched those as well. He's kind of grown out of them now, but it's a perfect gateway drug into Spider-Man, and also Into the Spider-Verse is also a gateway drug into movies for kids, because it is sort of like that hybrid where it's a really, really great movie, but also has sort of cartoonish features that kids can kind of latch onto. We actually did an interesting thing, which was that my wife and my son watched all of the Tom Holland movies this week in preparation for Brand New Day. So it was kind of interesting to watch them go back to it. And it was, I guess maybe the most fascinating thing here was that my wife was really into these movies, like way more than my son was. And I think when I asked her about it, she really like kind of latched onto the burgeoning romance between Tom Holland and Zendaya. She was like, I'm just watching this to see what are the, like the underlying sparks that are being hinted at here that have, and like if you watch these movies, there is a progression that happens to eventually those two getting married in real life before this last movie. That it is fun to kind of watch it from that perspective. I'd also like point out that this also being previously a Sony property, still is a Sony property as well, has the potential to kind of extend out into sort of a similar lifespan to James Bond, which is, like something like 30, 40 years of filmmaking behind it, with several actors kind of taking the reins at certain points. So I think there's the potential for that to happen. Although our friend Josh Horowitz, who's been on the show, was interviewing Tom Holland this week and said that there is a very clear succession plan in place for Tom Holland's eventual exit from the series, and potentially leading to either a Miles Morales or another Spider-Man of some kind happening as well. So I can see that there's a real continuity of character that can happen here. But before we get to that, I do want to just point out a couple of things, which is one, we do have a few emails to get through. We will not do those today because we have a guest on the show, but we will.
So we won't be getting through them.
We will get through them eventually is what I mean to say. Thank you to everyone who emailed us senditontlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Please keep sending us those emails.
We've been away technically with a little bit of odyssey between, but Sheer and I have been on summer break, Tondi. So that means we've been a little bit rusty with this whole getting an episode out in a timely manner sort of thing.
Yeah, Shahir mentioned one of my favorite movies of all time on one of the previous episodes, and I was going to ask him about it, but I was like, he's not going to remember recording that episode, so it doesn't matter.
I'm curious which one it was, just incidentally, but yeah, you're right, which is that we recorded our John Cusack, Summer of Cusack, probably in the winter of this year at this
2022.
Yeah. Do you remember what movie it was that I mentioned?
It may have been Dangerous Liaison.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't Dangerous Liaison. It was Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh, that's one. That is an amazing movie as well. Mike Figgis film. Yeah, it's an incredible performance from him. I also want to point out the actor, and I did this last time, which is the actress in it is it Leah Thompson from Back to the Future or no? No. It was
his girlfriend in the first movie.
Yes, it is Elizabeth Shue.
Yes.
She was in the second movie. I want to try something very, very quickly here, which is that I have done a stupid thing several times over now, and I figured the podcast was a good way to express this stupid idea and hopefully turn it into some good, which was that while my family was watching the entire Spider-Verse movie, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, I made the point to my son that, like, it feels to me in some way, and you guys can agree or disagree with me, that a lot of Tom Holland's performance as Peter Parker feels indebted to and in some way references Michael J. Fox's performance as Marty McFly in Back to the Future. I feel like there's a sort of a clear line between those two that feels very similar. And so I made the point to my son. I was like, oh, after we watch this, we should watch the Back to the Future franchise. And then I proceeded to buy a copy of Back to the Future, the trilogy, only to realize on my shelf that I actually owned a copy of it already, which I do. I do this all the time. And I have a copy of Cape Fear like this. I have a couple of other films where I'm like, I really want to watch that. And for some reason, I look through my shelf and I can't find it. So I'm automatically just go to Amazon and buy it.
I want to shout out an app for this year. There's literally a thing called My Movies that lets you scan barcodes and put them into your like digital library so you know what you own. So every time I get a new disc, I scan it and I'm like, then if I'm shopping, I'm like, oh, I got to watch Back to the Future. Do I? Got it. Like,
that's a great idea. So I want to propose one thing very, very quickly, which is that I will happily part ways with my additional copy of Back to the Future with actually two trivia questions that people can write us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
Wow.
And I will send at my own expense my used copy. I want to stress that out. The used copy of Back to the Future.
Hold on. Wait. You're sending you have a brand new one.
The brand new one was slightly more expensive, like considerably more expensive, because they keep re-releasing it every now and again. So yes, this is everything in line with Shahir as a gift giver. I'm giving you, but it is a perfectly usable copy. You can watch it. It's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But here are my two trivia questions.
Amazing.
One is, what was the original title of Back to the Future? And the second one is, who was originally cast as Marty McFly? Answer those two questions. Email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you a copy of the Back to the Future trilogy on Blu-ray.
Wow. Are you just going to go by timestamp and correctness?
Yeah, timestamp. Whoever gets in first will claim my additional copy of Back to the Future.
Your old copy of Back to the Future.
It is a Blu-ray copy of Back to the Future with all the extras and everything included. The packaging is still great, so it's just an additional copy that I happen to have.
All right.
And then at some point maybe we'll do this with Cape Fear and some other movies that I have as well, because it's a good way to get these off my shelf.
Yeah, just keep giving them away.
Yeah.
Toddy, let's back up for a second, my friend. What is your personal relationship with our Lord and Savior Spider-Man? Like, how far back does it go? You're wearing the shirt now, and very much respect for that.
So Spider-Man is part of all of our lives as people who grew up in the Western world. I'm older than you guys, and as far as pop culture IPs that like disseminate into the ether, Spider-Man was in my era the same level that Spider-Man is today. Like, it was on all the t-shirts and toys. Marvel was licensed to the gills for like Spider-Man products everywhere. So I've known Spider-Man pretty much all my life. The Electric Company had Spider-Man. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends was on when I was a child. Nicholas Hammond Spider-Man, so that TV show we mentioned earlier. So yeah, Spider-Man has just been part of my life. I think the first comic book, first comic book, Superman, Spider-Man. I had both those. Yep. But one of the first comic books I ever got was a Spider-Man comic book. So yeah, he's just been part of my life for my entire life.
Yeah, I feel like, at least for me, it's very similar. I went down in my late teens, early 20s, a bit of an obsessive rabbit hole. I know, shocking to everyone listening. But I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I own 3 different Spider-Man suits. I have done multiple weird either movies or Halloweens. My first Halloween in New York, I had actually, my friend Tom dressed up as the Punisher, and I was Spider-Man, which is very apt for this movie. And we ran around the Union Square area probably in 2006, just going absolutely nuts till like 5 a.m, like taking pictures and going crazy and meeting a bunch of, like, some of my fondest New York memories weirdly are dressed as Spider-Man. Awesome. And I've done photo shoots and done a whole bunch of stuff. I got a little too deep into it. I still have the suits. I've done children's birthday parties. I've gotten paid to do children's birthday parties as Spider-Man. I believe one time I came over to see Shahir's son for his birthday as well. That was unpaid. That was pro bono.
Yeah, I was going to say, in typical Shahir fashion, I did not pay you, but I insisted that you come over.
He just gave me a copy of Cape Fear that he said he got a better one of. It was really weird. I took it.
And I said, come over and hang out on my balcony for a while. Actually, it was actually really lovely because this was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And, so my son was stuck inside. We snuck Matt into the house in the Spider-Man costume. And my son had just bought, he hadn't bought, but we had gotten him a Miles Morales costume for Halloween that year. And so we told him that Spider-Man was outside waiting to say hello. It's weird. I don't think I could have ever convinced my son that Santa Claus was real, because as soon as I said it, he was like, "You mean Matt's outside, isn't it?" And he was like 5 years old, and he was like, "Matt, you mean Uncle Matt's outside, isn't he?" And I was like, "No, Spider-Man came to the house." He goes, "Yeah,
And we didn't break character, but he just played along. He helped it for us. Along.
Yeah.
So I mean that's sort of my history too. And then Shahir, I don't remember what your history is. Is it sort of similar to all 3 of our? You have 7 suits, obviously.
Yeah, I have 7 suits, and my Spider-Man costume is closer to Jack Black's MTV opener when he played Spider-Man. That's kind of what mine looks like.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
No, Spider-Man was not... Spider-Man, I guess, was big in the sense that Spider-Man is big and ubiquitous, and I think inherently all children understand what Spider-Man is. They don't need to be explained what Spider-Man is. He is, first off, he's a teenager and he can climb walls and swing and stuff, and we just all seem to get that. I know I watched the Marvel cartoon series when I was younger. They used to have they were sort of like basically still frames with just a little bit of animation. The Spider-Man and the Hulk
Bakshi
cartoon.
one.
Yeah. Who made them? Sorry,
Ralph Bakshi.
was it Ralph Bakshi who made those?
Yeah.
I did
That's
not
crazy,
realize
isn't it?
that.
Yeah.
That's wild because I just watched his Lord of the Rings Hobbit recently, and it's crazy. But I didn't realize
those
that
weird
he made
backgrounds in the later seasons. It's very Bakshi.
Yeah, I did not realize, but I was a fan of the Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk. I think I was far more interested in because I've always been large in my life and like larger than the other kids. So there was something about the Hulk that really spoke to me. But I did enjoy that series, and then. I recall I would have been a little bit older when the Tobey Maguire films came out. Like I wasn't in high school or anything when those films came out. So I did have a little bit of an more analytical lens to those films. But my memory of those was that Spider-Man 1 was just a rollicking good time. I remember going to the movies, seeing that in a theater and just going, this has just nailed everything that's great about this character. I've been a little bit less enthused by the movies since then, but we should talk about that a little bit in terms of the relationship. So maybe I'll try something a little bit on the fly here, which is that I would love it. So we agree that there's 11 movies. We're going to take out the CBS movie, or do you want to include that one?
I would like to include that, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would be happy to include that if you could do this one thing, which is that change all of your numbers by 1 and remove Brand New Day out of it for now. So that we can all just kind of say what our Spider-Man rankings are before Brand New Day.
I see what you're saying.
And then we can start the conversation and see where Brand New Day fits into this. Is that possible? I feel like
I think
that's
so.
a little bit of basic math we need to do here. I could start with my number 11 because I've got 11 of these, but it'll now be my number 10 because I'm going to remove Brand New Day out of this list.
Are you gonna put in the 1977 Spider-Man, or are you just gonna leave that one out?
Honestly,
He's
never seen it. Okay.
I have vague recollections of it, but it wouldn't be inappropriate to put it on my list at number 10 because my number 10 is also one that I have not seen except in bits and pieces. My number 10 is The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2, the second Andrew Garfield film, which is one that I feel like I've seen parts of but never sat down to watch in its entirety. So I've kind of put that down the lowest. I know that's often ranked as one of the lower ones as well. So I'll quickly just run through mine, and then you guys, you guys jump through yours. So number 10 for me would be Spider-Man The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Number 9 would be Spider-Man No Way Home from 2021. Number 9 would be Spider-Man Far From Home. So the two Tom Hollands kind of taking out the bottom spots right now.
Wow, Far From Home beat Homecoming. Or No Way Home.
No, it didn't beat for Homecoming.
Beat No Way Home.
It beat No Way Home. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Spider-Man 2 coming in a little lower as well here at number 8. I've never been quite enamored with that movie, despite I know that probably being the number 1 on everyone's list. I never quite vibed with that movie in particular. And this will be the hottest take of all because everyone will be like, I have no credibility whatsoever, which is Spider-Man 3 comes in above it at number 6, which is one that to me felt more in tune with the first movie in terms of just being a rollicking good time, and one where I actually like vibed with the villains a little bit more. I was much more in tune with Venom as a villain than I was with Doc Ock, for example, in Spider-Man 2. I know these are hot takes, but that'll be there. And then, so my number 4 will be the Andrew Garfield film, the Amazing Spider-Man, which Matt, you and I saw together, and I was like, this isn't a bad movie. It just doesn't need to exist in terms of like, we've done this movie before. But it was like, this is actually pretty decent, and I like Andrew Garfield as a Spider-Man there. My number 4 movie we actually just rewatched a couple of nights ago, Across the Spider-Verse is my number 4. I think it's a beautiful film, easily could be one of the best ones, but it kind of feels incomplete at this stage, and also a little bit overstuffed. And so then my top 3 Spider-Mans, without including Brand New Day in the list somewhere, would be Spider-Man Homecoming, the first Tom Holland movie, at number 3. Spider-Man, the first Sam Raimi film, at number 2. And my number 1 would be Into the Spider-Verse. I think is the quintessential Spider-Man movie at this point.
You got more respectable as you moved on.
Yeah. I know putting Spider-Man 2 that low and then hitting you with the sucker punch of putting Spider-Man 3 one above it is possibly unforgivable.
I think you did that on purpose. Tanya, do you want to go or do you want me to go? Who you want to?
I'll go. Sure. No
All right.
problem. Before I go, do you mind if I do just a little diatribe, just a short rant?
I would prefer a mid to long rant, but a short rant I will accept.
It'll be quick. People love the Raimi films. They love the Raimi films with a deep and abiding love, and I don't. I think that Raimi executed perfectly on what he wanted to make, which was a 1960s soap opera comic set in 2000. I don't like that. It's not my speed, and that's not saying anything about the quality of the films. That's just not for me. That's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is Tobey Maguire's creepy neurodivergent Peter Parker. He gives me the willies. I kind of don't like that character.
Yeah,
and I don't think that any of the relationships that he forms are earned. They're not organic. They kind of don't work for me. So with that said, once again, that's not about the quality of the films themselves.
Your number 10 is Spider-Man 2, isn't it?
My number 10 is Spider-Man 3.
There we go. Okay. That's fine.
The list is not egregious. I just wanted to put that out there because that's how I feel.
No, I actually don't disagree with your reading of those films. In fact, I think those are perfectly valid readings of that film, which is that they're beautifully executed. They have a certain place in cinematic history, but and people love them deeply. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
All right, so number 10, Spider-Man 3. Number 9, TASM 2. Number 8? Far From Home. Number 7, TASM 1. Then next, No Way Home. After that, Spider-Man 2. After that, Homecoming. Then the original Raimi Spider-Man. So still a good movie. And then it's Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse.
As your number 2 and 1.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
That makes total sense. Your and my list are kind of like they're circling around the same areas. I think they feel like they're kind of moving.
Shahir, you put Spider-Man 3 in front of Spider-Man 2. They are not even the same zip code. The lists you just did.
But Tandy didn't put Spider-Man 2 particularly high.
That's
in fact,
okay.
I think his Spider-Man 2 is where my Spider-Man 3 is.
But the order is the important part to me in my heart. I will say, Toddy, I agree with a lot of the points you've made with specifically like, he set out to make the perfect version of what he wanted to do as a 1960s sitcom set in 2000. The part I'll push back on a little bit is I actually do think the relationships in those films, in 1 and 2, are earned. And then I think that the third one does a really good job ripping all that goodwill out continually as the runtime of the film moves on and on, but to each their own. My list, and I'm gonna go through very quickly. Number 12 is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that's all, we're all there. Number 11 is 1977 Spider-Man. And the reason why I put that above 2 is I remember seeing that as a kid, like before I felt like Spider-Man could never be like real, like before the Raimi movies and everything. It was always a cartoon or a comic book. And I remember seeing that on TV when I was like 4 or 5 and losing my goddamn mind. Like it's terrible, but it's I like the joy I felt being like, they put a guy in that suit. Like it's
and he's
just
climbing a wall.
Yeah, it's amazing. So that's my number 11. Number 10 is The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 9 is Spider-Man 3. Number 8 is Far From Home. Number 7 is No Way Home. Number 6 is Across the Spider-Verse. Number 5 is Homecoming. Number 4 is Spider-Man. Number 2 is Into the Spider-Verse. And number 1 is Spider-Man 2.
I think we're, other than Spider-Man 2 on your list, we're kind of all in the same boat. And I think it's actually just a matter of which Raimi we prefer. But we do agree. I think we all acknowledge that Raimi's films are, to me, to Spider-Man what Richard Donner's Superman is to the Superman franchise. It's like quintessential. It's important. It is one of the it's one of the great cinematic achievements, and it brings to life a character in a way so vividly that every iteration from this point forward it has to kind of contend with that film.
Yeah, here's something that I think is good and important. I think both Raimi Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and Homecoming, or you might argue Civil War, but that's not a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
I think the the really good, like it's been I'm going to kick out 1977 for now. It's been rebooted 4 times from franchises, right?
Yeah.
Like essentially, not even rebooted. What was that?
Because they have to.
Because they have to, right?
Yeah.
But like each one is pretty good. Like even Amazing Spider-Man is still a good, like it's a fine superhero movie. Like I was not, like I don't remember being angry at it. You can go back and listen to that episode. Maybe I was.
I remember coming out of the movie theater and you were pretty angry at it.
I don't have, you know what it probably is? I have a really soft spot for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like him playing the character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
He's great.
I also wanted to say that none of these movies are bad movies to me. I think that they are all quality entertainment.
Yeah. And like Andrew Garfield, I feel like got the worst Spider-Man movies to be the best Spider-Man in. And it was
he's
like
Pierce Brosnan. He's the Pierce Brosnan of this franchise, right? Like he's like possibly the best James Bond in the worst James Bond movies.
Yeah, but at least Pierce Brosnan had GoldenEye. Right? Like
yeah.
GoldenEye's fire.
Well, and in that respect, I guess they gave, Andrew Garfield got his No Way Home.
Yes. I like the, is it cheesy or a little bit too meta for some people? I guess, but like I really like the way they treated him and what they did with him in No Way Home. I think that was a good way to honor the craft he brought to sloppy movies.
Yeah. I want to make one other point, which is that because you can go back and listen to our Homecoming and Far From Home episodes.
We've done 5 Spider-Man movies on this podcast.
I did not do No Way Home. Did we do No Way Home? We did not.
We did do No Way Home. I believe.
Not with me. Yeah.
I guess. Oh, Alex and Dave were on that one.
Okay. There you go. And I will say, I think to this point about how often it's being rebooted, I think I was. The John Watts films, Homecoming and Far From Home, for me kind of came in a sort of big wave of Marvel movies where they were kind of just throwing everything at us. I recall from when we were doing Far From Home, it was like the 3rd or 4th Marvel movie that year that we had seen. So there was this point where I was just kind of like, we've just done this story and versions of these stories so often at this point, and we've only got one Blade movie in that run. So I'm kind of like, it just feels there's a little bit of air of desperation about these, or a little bit of like IP management. That said, having rewatched them in the last week, I actually really do like John Watts's approach to Spider-Man in so much as like it's referencing Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's got a sort of like really sharply honed teenage comedy vibe to it that's really, really well played. And I think maybe I was a little bit harsh on Far From Home. In fact, the things that I do like about these movies have to do with the sort of really acutely honed teenage comedy of it all, like the sense of like their awkwardness, the kind of funny rapid fire jokes that they've got for one another. I think that stuff is actually really great. Where I get loose on, or a little bit less enthused with the Far From Home and even Homecoming a little, I think Homecoming stuff is less of this, is where they do try to like tie him into a larger MCU narrative. I think that's where I kind of get a little bit like, it feels perfunctory at this point. I'm more interested in the sort of MJ, Peter Parker, Ned story. I'm more interested in that part. So that's just kind of a preface to how we will get into our conversation of Brand New Day.
The people stuff.
Yeah, well, and I think that sort of trio of characters that they create at the center of this is actually where there's gold in our hills. When they're doing like I'm on the record on this No Way Home, when they're bringing in the various Spider-Men and that sort of thing, it really doesn't do a lot for me. And the sort of bigger tie-ins to Iron Man and what have you sort of also kind of like leave me a little bit cold. But let's talk about that in terms of like how they calibrate Brand New Day, which is the new film by director Daniel Destin Cretton. Can you tell us a little bit about what Brand New Day is about, man?
I sure can. The Internet Movie Database says that Spider-Man Brand New Day is a forgotten Peter Parker lives alone as a full-time Spider-Man until mounting pressure triggers a dangerous change and a powerful new enemy emerges. All true. Okay. I think one of the points you just made here is very, very good. And the things that you sort of connected with in those last three films, which I did also just rewatch. The growth and narrative arc of Ned, MJ, and Peter throughout three movies is an absolute delight to watch. And what I really like about it is the particularly slow roll of MJ in the first one. She's there, and a very awesome, like, aside whenever she pops up, and you start getting the character. And like, I knew people like that in high school. It's really great to sort of see that trope. And so I think one of the reasons why the connection between these three actually matters and matters in this movie, because the entirety of the emotional weight of this film is based around those three characters knowing and loving or having loved each other. And I think that the way that they've crafted those characters, Ned I'm trying to remember, is Ned Miles's best friend, or is he an amalgamation of Miles's best friend?
He's supposed to be like Genki, but no, Ned Leeds is
yeah. So Ned is like Genki-esque, and MJ is like just a new take on Mary Jane, even though she's Michelle Jones. Yeah. I think one of the reasons why it is so successful, outside of the actors being excellent and it just being a generally good time to watch them become friends, is the fact that they've done all the things. We kind of have a classic young Peter, but now in the 2020s. We have a new best friend that is similar to the best friend in a more current Spider-Man thing, and we've reinvented MJ entirely. And I think that there's something like, out of all of the things that are not fresh about Spider-Man, it's cool to have them take different levels of different things and put them together and make a trio of people that, outside of all of the action and the colorful costumes and the special effects, you really do give a shit about. I think that's the strength of the three movies overall, and I think that's where the core of why I'll even spoil my first thoughts, then I'll toss it to you guys. I enjoyed this movie very much. I think there's some issues with it that we'll talk about. But I think this is a solid entry, easily in the top half of my list, I will say at this point.
Do you want to say where it lands on your list?
No,
getting further in? Oh no, you don't? Okay. Tandy, what do you think about the Brand New Day?
So, my hot take is that this is easily the best live-action Spider-Man movie.
Wow.
Yeah, and for me, it's not even close. I like Tom Holland a lot as an actor. I've been up and down on his, or not really down, but kind of middling on his Peter. But Tom Holland has this ability on screen to make you feel like the people that are working with him like him.
Yes.
And yeah. And it's infectious. You like Tom Holland. He's probably developed a relationship with all of these people, but it shows through on screen. People seem to like Tom Holland, and he plays a very likable character. So when he's going through it, which he is in this movie, I'm going through it with him. And the action is far superior to the other modern Spider-Man movies. I really just like ennui generally, so like him going through it is like a big plus for me.
Yeah.
I don't think that they made the right decision with trying to reestablish the relationship that they basically broke the franchise to, save his friends. And then they're like, oh, well, these people are still part of the IP, so we got to bring them back into the IP. Why'd you break the franchise then? And as I said in the that little Instagram video I did, the MCU trope of these characters not actually having secret identities can't work for Spider-Man, because part of Spider-Man's brand is like a full face mask. It's part of like the logo of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. But when you take away Spider-Man's identity, and then he doesn't make an effort to establish a new secret identity, then Peter Parker's nothing. What's the mask for? He doesn't exist in the world. Over the past 5 years, he hasn't made any effort to establish himself as Peter in this new frame of living. He's just Spider-Man. So, there's a scene where somebody's like, oh, I got you covered. They put on the Spider-Man mask so Peter can like be anonymous in a scene, but anonymous for what? Peter doesn't exist. He doesn't exist as far as the government is concerned. He doesn't exist as far as the people that are around him is concerned. So there's some missing evolution that is probably hinted at for after this movie that doesn't take place in this movie. And I think that is a missed opportunity, kind of a failing of the writing. But even beyond that, I think this is the best Spider-Man movie that's live action.
Yeah, I think I can see your point there. And like, there's a, I guess the version of the scene would be like at the end of Man of Steel, when Clark Kent suddenly appears at the end as a reporter, is kind of what you're looking for in this movie, which is Peter Parker suddenly being a young photojournalist. I
actually don't want that for him. I don't want that at all. I am not nostalgic for that young photojournalist Peter. In the comic books, Peter's been like a research scientist. He's owned a multinational company. He's been a high school teacher. He's been a university professor. He can grow.
Something.
But just anything that establishes Peter as a person. You know, Peter in the comic book gets it in. He's got girlfriends and stuff. Yeah. You can do something with this person to establish them outside of this, because the sad mode is good. What brings them out of the sad mode to make him Peter again? When he has his catharsis and he's like, I'm both these things. That doesn't actually happen. So
yeah, that's actually a really interesting take on the movie because, as you say, there is a sort of level of ennui, a sort of, I guess, a Dark Knight-ish quality to this, which is that it is taking the mythology very seriously at this point, and it is a little dour at the end compared to the other three films. It's dour at the beginning. And I think there's something to this notion that Peter Parker, I guess one way you can tell this is not a real human being is that he's a New Yorker and he's ordering Little Caesars every day, which is like very clearly like
the
something.
Product placement is hot and heavy in this.
You want it twice.
Little Caesars?
I'm getting the impression he eats Little Caesars every day in this movie, and I was like, what?
You got the Sony flip phone in there? Hell, I even saw
you got the Samsung.
Yes.
Oh, Samsung. Yeah. Pardon. No, it's a Sony. Is it
Samsung?
No,
is it?
It's Samsung's. Yeah, he's because they've got a brand partnership with Samsung.
Oh well, there we go.
Sony doesn't have a flip phone.
Oh, I've never paid attention to flip phones, so that shows what I know.
Big phone guy.
Oh, okay, well I will take your word for it. And I'm pretty sure I saw a Biro pop up there. Yeah. Tom Holland's non-alcoholic drink was in the foreground of a shot in the bodega.
It's been well documented that this has 165 brand partners in this film.
Wow.
Amounting to, including Tom Holland's beer company, Biro, Asus, Taki, Samsung, BMW, and many others.
You know what's good, though? Here's what I'll say. Yeah. I only noticed 3, and one of them I got wrong. So I think they're doing an okay job with all these brand sponsorships.
Well, it's fascinating in terms of like intellectual property. That there is an entertainment lawyer that I follow on Instagram who made the comment that like there's an interesting thing with IP that's this big, which is that typically for brand partnerships like this, the production will pay a partnership agreement with the brand. But in the case of someone as big as Spider-Man, they will actually pay the production to have their products featured in this film because it's so big. And obviously, it's not a bad marketing tactic given that it's $1 billion film. I think some of the Samsung product placement kind of like irked me. And then I think Little Caesars in New York City he's a quintessential New Yorker ordering Little Caesars every day is a little, just if you live here, it kind of is a little bit of a stretch.
I've ordered Little Caesars once in the 20 years I've lived here, and it was for a joke.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, you do not order Little Caesars in New York City.
In a city where there is a pizza, there's a pizza store, basically, like there are 2 or 3, Matt and I live in the same block. There are 2 or 3 within walking distance of us. So, to order Little Caesars is quite wild. I think, I'm a fan of Daniel Destin Cretton. It wasn't his debut film, but Short Term 12, which is, just has this wildly stacked cast, including Brie Larson, Rami Malek, Stephanie Beatrix, and Lakeith Stanfield in the film. It does come out swinging. And I did see that movie in theaters and was quite moved by that movie. So I think seeing him take this journey from that to his follow-up film, The Glass Castle, and Just Mercy, which is I haven't actually seen Just Mercy, but I've read the book, so I'm very aware of what that story is about. And then I wasn't enamored by his Shang-Chi, but, it's well within the MCU world, and he by no means does a bad job of it. You can kind of see that. And then he eventually gets tapped to be a larger figure in the MCU universe. He was originally going to direct Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, but when that fell apart with Jonathan Majors, he kind of decides to move on, and he picks up kind of smartly and picks up Spider-Man here.
Well, he also did Wonder Man, the show.
Yes, he did do the Wonder Man show, which was just canceled this week.
But it's so good. I'm so fucking pissed.
Is so good.
Like I cannot. Well, yeah.
I have not seen it. But the thing that oddly, okay, so in terms of my overall thoughts of the movie, I think in a way I do miss the John Watts kind of comedy of it, but this is actually a very good evolution of we know these characters, we know where they will be, and that kind of zippy, zany comedy that we were doing in 1 and 2 doesn't quite work anymore, so we have matured out of it. And I think that aligns really well with this sort of like counter narrative that they're doing, that his powers are evolving in some way, which is what we've seen before in Spider-Man 2. My friend who works over at Marvel kind of joked about it, saying like every iteration of Spider-Man tries to do this and doesn't get away with it very well, and he wasn't as big a fan of this. But I thought it was kind of like interesting in so much as it also felt like a sort of apt metaphor for puberty at some point, especially when he's like his sticky goo is coming out of his arms and that sort of thing. So I think it works there. For me, the same complaint that I have about Far From Home and No Way Home, which is that when this ties into like larger pieces of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I do find myself kind of like getting a little bit antsy while watching this, going in terms of like, okay, I think this is okay, but I also, there are parts of this where we lose Spider-Man as a character for like 20, 30 minutes and are doing another character who is a big factor in future movies of future Spider-Man movies future parts of the MCU. I'm not giving away spoilers yet, although it is.
We should. We're about 50 minutes in or 45 minutes in. We can start spoiling it.
Well, we can say Jean Grey is in the film, and I think she plays. Sadie Sink plays the character well. The arc is to feel there are moments that are lifted straight out of the Denzel Washington film Fallen. I don't know if either of you guys have seen that movie.
I think I saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
There's the whole like jumping from person to person thing was in that Denzel Washington film, and it's done almost the same way in this movie, and it's
who ate good in this movie is dance troupe and motion actors. Like there's so many people from the jumpers, like when the jumping hit, like physicality actors and dancers feel like they got hundreds of them to be these extra characters to be able to do like the hit and like the move of the head when she jumps from person to person.
It was very cool because more practical stuff.
Yeah.
Practical stuff, really cool. There was there's been like a lot of really cool behind the scenes features that Daniel Crichton has been putting up. But the thing that actually really sold me was the end credits. I was like, while my son and wife were watching the other 3 films, I was working on a motion design project. And so I would be watching the end credits very carefully because they're really beautifully designed from the other 3 films. They were like, as far as motion design goes, they're really awesome. In fact, at one point, I froze one of the credits and like took a photo of it and stole one of the fonts from it because it was just so well put together while I was working on it. And then this has got a end credit sequence that is basically just like static shots of New York City. I went and looked this up as well. These were either inspired by director Lloyd Lee Choi, who's a friend of Daniel Crichton's, who's got a film out called Lucky Lou, but was a reference point for Crichton's take on New York City in terms of like, he felt like that was Lloyd Lee Choi's film, Lucky You, was like just such a great representation of like what it feels to walk around New York City. And that end title credit sequence really, with that little sort of laid back track by Steve Lacy's song, Oh Yeah, it really does like give you that sense of what like New York City is in the summertime. And that is something that, as a transplant to the city, something I've fallen in love with over the last, 15 years or so now. And so that was the vibe that really won me over. I think, also there's a beautiful moment in the middle of this film where Spider-Man is really being put through the ringer as he does, as he is in many of these movies. The whole point is to punish Spider-Man as much as possible. But there's a moment where he's kind of sitting on a sofa or sitting on a couch, putting together Legos with his best friend and his girlfriend on one side. And he says, and it just feels like one of the most sincere things I've heard in an MCU movie, he says, this has actually been one of the best days of my life in a long time. And I really believe it and I buy it. And I'm, knowing the weight of where the franchise is and where he's been, you do feel that. So when it becomes things like, Florence Pugh's Black Widow and Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk and is it the Hand, the enemies from Daredevil,
yep.
I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
The Punisher, Punisher's okay, but it's a little, but when it gets into that world and Jean Grey on top of that, I am finding myself like less enthused by the movie.
So I get that. I think there's something interesting to this one. And I don't know if it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, but follow me here for a second. Mm-hmm. It's my this is the most successful film in the sense of it's a film that feels the most like a comic book I've ever watched. Like the structure of it. Like normally when they do forced characters into the things and all this stuff, I am sometimes 50% of the time I'm like, okay. This, I did not feel that way because the way these characters came in and out of the story, which I do believe is quintessentially Peter outside of that 10-minute scene for Jean Grey's setup. I think that this is exactly how Marvel characters pop in and out of their comic books, of their other friends or acquaintances or enemies, right? Like this just felt like I was reading an arc and oh shit, yeah, there's one scene with Black Widow to get intel from. Like that's cool. And the reason why I like this a lot here, even down to the Rogues Gallery beginning with like Tombstone and Scorpion and
like Tarantula.
Yeah. Like I like it because before this movie, if there was a character like any of those characters, like Yelena would have been a top billed person. But now she's just serving a role. She's in 2 shots. Even the Hulk, he's on the promos, but he's perfunctory. It doesn't matter that he's here. It makes sense. And I think this movie does a very good job that the best comic arcs do. It's spinning a lot of plates and subtly setting up things for the MCU that will be important without making them incredibly important in this movie, i.e. the inhibitor chips. There's no way in hell that's not coming back in the X-Men movies about trying to air quote fix people. That's going to come back to haunt this character later, I think. There's lots of different things that this movie does in a comic book structure that I think it works so well. I equated this to Jamie when I got home. I was like, this movie has some bumps. I can see them and I feel them and I'm like, oh, okay, what? Okay. But it also lulls you into this sweet pocket of I could look over the edge and see that the road has potholes, but the shock absorption on the Spidey mobile is so smooth. I don't really give a shit. I am just taken for a ride on this thing. And I think a lot of that has to do with, honestly, the performance is what we said, the way it feels like a comic book. And Tandy, I believe you mentioned something briefly about this, and I'd love to hear your take on it, this is the most non-green screen Spider-Man of all of these 3 Spider-Men, right? This is there's a lot of practical action in this movie, as practical as one could possibly do. And there's real locations and you don't have that flat, no shadow, no depth, lighting. You're not green screening Peter Parker at a fucking graveyard, right?
It looked really good.
Yeah.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why customers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
A colossal monster, a city in ruins, no way out, except inside of the all-electric Toyota CHR. John Cho stars in Escape. Test drive Toyota's new all-electric family today. Toyota, let's go places.
Like the choices they made to make the costume like impossibly crimson or scarlet or whatever, loved that. And I think that they actually brought in a Chinese wushu team to work on some of the physical scenes.
It's Jackie Chan's company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved the MCU integration. Like, I felt like that was very organic. Florence Pugh is charming in everything, and she is a delicious spice on top of the movie. She's not in there very much, but yeah, I thought that stuff worked really well. I don't think that the character of the Punisher belongs here, but I enjoyed him being in the movie. So
yeah, I agree with that sentiment as well, which is that none of this is destroying the movie experience for me. It's just that the thing that I think I am most enamored by in the movie tends to anchor around MJ, Peter, and Ned. Those are, like their story is where I'm interested. And I think, like for me, the Jean Grey thing, she is kind of like the big bad of the film in so much as that her big bad is also very similar to Sentinel and Thunderbolts, which is that, like he is this all power that is just sort of suffering from trauma that needs to be healed through the course of the movie. And I actually quite like that at the end of the movie, that trauma is healed not through like a giant battle sequence. It's actually just, through talking it out and Aunt May kind of stepping in at some point from the great beyond and kind of like,
what a great way to bring back Marissa Tomei too. Like that's smooth as hell. But I it was interesting. I was watching some red carpet footage and I saw Sam Raimi on the red carpet, and they were asking him about like what his Spider-Man 4 would be like now. And he said that, he said this thing that I think, it's quintessential Sam Raimi, it's quintessential filmmaking. Is he said, I would think about what is the greatest arc, or what is the most difficult arc that Peter Parker / Spider-Man would be going through. And then I would figure out what villain bumps up against that. And, in that regard, I'm kind of like, if I frame it that way, I found that the Jean Grey thing was like, it's an interesting choice of villain. It's an interesting choice of like, big bad that he has to deal with. It is less interesting than his actual, day-to-day issue, which is that he is lonely and he has lost the thing that he loves the most. And it doesn't quite bump up in the same way as that. There's also this sort of like interesting thing, which is that Jean Grey is kind of like murderous towards the beginning of the film until they reveal who she is. And then she's like, oh, she's just, trying to find her sister. But like she straight up murders people through this movie, right? Like there's a dude that gets hit by a truck on her behest at some point. Yeah. And then the one that I actually could like, I was like just sitting there the whole movie going, wait, is anyone thinking about this? Is like when he traps her in a helicopter and says, I know that your distance is 33 feet and there's no way you're going to get out of this. And then she appears later on as MJ. And I was like, I'm pretty sure she like threw that dude off out of the helicopter in order to like, like she straight up like threw that guy down a skyscraper. Or she could have left and started again, but they don't show it. Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly.
I feel like that character, and that wasn't my favorite choice for a big bad either, but I feel like that character integrates nicely into what Destin Daniel Cretton does, which is the human stuff, like a really genuine human connection.
Yeah.
That character taking advantage of those human connections to manipulate people. I think that works really well. I would have chosen something different for this movie, but they're also franchise building.
And that's kind of what it feels like at some point. It was like, we got to get to the X-Men. Here's like a amuse-bouche of X-Men before we get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of like it though. I think one of the reasons why I don't mind, two reasons why I don't mind it here. One, Tandy, to your point, like it's even to Sam Raimi's point, like it is kind of the exact right villain's power set for this moment to butt up against and/or enable certain things to happen. Like it exacerbates Peter's problem, and it gives us the audience that fucking bittersweet moment where she does take over MJ and has the false like, oh, you remember, and then she just rips his metaphorical heart out. Like that's amazing, and you can do that with a Jean Grey. And the second thing I really appreciate is Jean Grey as a character, in my opinion, even through all of the fucking original X-Men, has never really been a character. Like in the movies. In the comics, she has deep lore and she is very interesting and cool. And I feel like she is not given outside of childhood trauma. Charles saved her. Both Logan and Scott love her. That's what we get in all three X-Men movies, and I won't even go into Dark Phoenix because that I just don't even remember a single thing about Jean Grey as a character. This gives you at least an origin point for who is one of the quintessential most important original X-Men who on screen has not gotten that before. And I appreciate it. Like, that's why I think I didn't mind the 10-minute diatribe, because I'm like, and I know it's not about Spider-Man, I get that, but like, we've never had that before, and I like that she's going to come into whatever is like that. To me, feels like good franchise building. Like, also, I really appreciated that. Yeah, they drop her name as Jean Grey, but that means nothing to anyone in this movie. It's just her name. Like, it's not like, oh my God, the psychic girl who did the thing, and like, it's not like we're not like building her up like a standardized tie-in here. Like, she's just a girl named Jean right now who's fucking up a lot of shit. And
she's riding off into the sunset into upstate New York.
Upstate New York.
Yeah, she is like, I was like, there it is, there she goes.
Everybody was to the school.
Yeah.
I was like, at some point, I was waiting for like a bald-headed dude to wander around through the background of the movie as well and be like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's. The other thing is, the reason I think I'm also less, like a little bit more forgiving of this movie is that it's not within the glut of Marvel movies that were coming out. You know, like the last two movies we did were Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, which were like a year ago. Mm-hmm. And there was a point at which when we were getting Spider-Man Homecoming, like I said, it was like the fourth movie that year. And the franchise just kept feeling like we were just sort of like adding movies that, in a way, we're like teasing the next movie, and that is what TV. Yeah, and that is what this is sort of doing, but slightly better, and it's got a little bit more breathing room to do that. It's also like there's also a quality to the Tom Holland performance and the calibration of like the ennui, as you described it, Tandy, that feels a little bit like I have lived in this character for three rounds now. And I am I want to push it a little bit further because I've now, like I have got a sense of ownership of it. That reminds me of when Hugh Jackman kind of like started pushing Wolverine and, towards what we got with Logan. Like we're starting to see sort of like more frayed edges towards this character and a little bit more interest to it, because as much as I liked, as much as now in retrospect think that the John Watts stuff was really, really good, it is actually nice that they've kind of evolved it in some way here into something slightly darker and with a little bit more weight to it. And I think Tom Holland owns that. I think Zendaya owns that. And I think Jacob Batalon owns that as well. So I feel like those characters are like really growing with those actors as they age. And then I guess, but with the Jean Grey thing, it feels like we're going to get a couple of movies now where Spider-Man is like kind of like an ancillary character in the background while those other stories are going on. And then we'll come back to like some sign-off character.
That's kind of comic books. Like if they do it right.
Like, I think your framing of it as, like quintessentially a comic book movie in terms of like, we now have like a history with all these characters. So when they do pop in, it is like in the comic book frames when the Hulk would pop into a Spider-Man story, or the Punisher would pop into a Spider-Man story, or Black Widow would pop into a Spider-Man story. It feels that's a right calibration of it.
I don't see Tom Holland doing that. I don't think he's going to do that.
You don't think he's going to pop into other people's stories like that?
No, I think he will appear for the big things like Secret Wars or whatever.
Yeah.
And just do his own movies. Like, he can do whatever he wants to at this point. So if he wants to free up his time to do more like serious acting, then he can. And I think that he's at that age where he probably does want to do that. So.
Yeah, I think he's at a certain inflection. You know, it's no bitter reveal by the fact that Odyssey, you know, like came out just a couple of weeks before this, and the way he talks about Odyssey, the experience of making the Odyssey, you know, really sort of suggests that what he's looking for are experiences like that, where he's he's being pushed a little bit.
I'm so surprised he didn't get that from Uncharted.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's had the experience of films like Uncharted, and then even interestingly, like The Crowded Room and Cherry with the Rousseau brothers. Mm-hmm. You know, he's been doing those kinds of movies that have not ended up working out the way he has. But The Odyssey is probably potentially his first taste outside of the MCU of a film that like recognizes him as a performer. You know, and it isn't the sort of character IP isn't required there, although it is the Odyssey. I think, for me, well, let me sort of just put that into context, which is where this film lands in my top 10 or my top 11, which is that it lands almost near the middle, underneath The Amazing Spider-Man and above Spider-Man 3 at number 6.
Underneath The Amazing Spider-Man.
I think, you know, like, I said this at the time, is like The Amazing Spider-Man is actually a pretty great Spider-Man standalone story. It just comes in at a time when we didn't need that movie. And Andrew Garfield is actually a pretty great Spider-Man, and his, you know, like his battle with the lizard is actually really well executed, and his like their understanding of how to play that character is actually pretty great. So I do rank that higher as a standalone film than this, which feels a little bit more connected to other movies than it does its own thing. You know, Into the Spider-Verse is still far and away for me the superior film out of all of these. It is like
that's pretty
the one that's kind of what's that?
So that's pretty interconnected. Eventually,
the interesting thing there. Into the Spider-Verse is interconnected in so much as it's telling an interconnected story, but those characters are popping into that film for the very, very first time.
Right, but now they all have, like, some of them have spin-offs.
And this is why Across the Spider-Verse, like, falls lower for me.
Yeah, I think Into stands alone well.
Yeah.
You don't have to watch anything else after that if you don't want to.
You don't have to watch anything else after it. You don't have to watch anything before it. You know, like, it is telling its own story. And that's why that is, you know, the quintessential best of these, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This slots right in the middle. Where does it kind of fit for you guys?
Mine is number 3. So it's Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi number 4. Spider-Man 1 is number 4. This is number 3. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is number 2. And then Spider-Man 2 is still number 1.
Yeah. How about you, Tandy?
Yeah, it's number 3, like right after the 2 Spider-Verse movies.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the reasons why for me it doesn't click a little higher. I feel like I've talked a lot of things that I loved about this movie, but I think, Tandy, what the thing that you said specifically about the secret identity and the problems that Peter has, and sort of like doing the both ways of it all, and like kind of doing more so a soap opera-y ending of like the handshake and getting like having a moment of like, oh, what could it be? Something that so the term Brand New Day comes after, in the comic books, essentially, the dumbest run of 4 arcs, where essentially Peter Parker sacrifices his marriage to Mephisto to save his 98-year-old aunt's life, who got shot. Or maybe, I don't remember if she got shot that time, but like basically him and MJ agree to sacrifice their love to the devil, and then no one will remember, but Aunt May will be alive. And then you get this, which I'm holding up, which is the first trade for the first run of the Brand New Day sort of run of comic books. I believe, when did this come out? This was roughly, I want to say, not that it particularly matters. I don't know. It's too small text, like, and I can't see.
2009 or something? Or
Something like that. But and the interesting thing is, I think the overall run of this series is fine. But what was neat was getting to see Spider-Man and Peter Parker in a new light. This is when I believe he started to be a teacher and be an entrepreneur and or have different love interests depending on whatever. This is before Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock takes over his body. But MJ and Harry are gone. like his support system is gone. You have Aunt May, I believe, is she's still in it, but like everything else is just new.
It's a new day.
And what I was hoping at the end of this movie, not that I don't love MJ and Ned, but like I was really hoping
for the new day.
For the new day. Like this felt like it was having to do, like if they ended it a different way, it could have been cleanup for the entirety of the story, ended on a very sweet note. Still have, like, I'm not saying like he has to leave and like whatever, but like I don't. The soap opera person in me like would love to see Peter and Ned be friends again. Like that's like the closure part of my brain is like, ooh, yay. But like the interesting story part of my brain, it's not anymore. Like I would like to see new things. Hell, move Ned into Doctor Strange. He does magic now. Like, I'd like to see that character elsewhere, but like, we don't need to do he was just out and then they sort of pull him back
they
in.
godfathered him back in.
Yeah. And like, I want but to again, Tandy, to your point, I want him to have a secret identity, but he needs to have people. I don't need it to be these people. I need him to have other people. Like, I need him to like make more friends.
Have a life.
Yeah. Like, and I like that, like, I do like the Punisher in this movie. What I particularly like about the Punisher and the way that John Bernthal plays him, John Bernthal has played the Punisher like 4 different ways, and somehow they all still feel like the same Punisher. Like, and I think that's a really good magic trick. Like, this is like pissed off older brother who just dropped out of college Punisher. He's not that bad of a guy. Like, where if you watch one last kill or one more kill on that like mini thing, like that's
where he's
brutal.
going through the most severe PTSD you've ever seen on screen.
Yeah.
Is that where the Staten Island incident happens?
No, it is
Staten
not.
Island.
That is just a throwaway thing, which is fine.
Oh, really? That doesn't happen in one of the series?
Nope.
Oh. Okay. I was like, because when it happened, when they mentioned it and then they continue to mention it, I was like, okay, so this is some reference to something that happened in another show or another movie.
And I love it. I love that
really?
It's not. Like, it's because that's like that conversation feels like a conversation that Spider-Man and Punisher would have in a comic book. That time on Staten Island, oh, fuck, like, it just felt correct for the characters. And that's a real joy.
And then I've got one more nerd question, which is that Ned is also rumored to be like evolve into another character, right? Or he like there is something about Ned where he becomes either a villain or something like that.
Ned Leeds became the Hobgoblin at some point,
right?
In the comics.
And so what is the Hobgoblin? I'm guessing it's something to do with Green Goblin and Doctor Strange.
He's very much like the Green Goblin, but he's not the Green Goblin, and he's got a long history of all kinds of... He becomes partially a demon at some point, but originally he's like a take on the Green Goblin. He's got the pumpkin bombs and the glider and the...
He stole it from Norman Osborn at a certain point.
It's like a CIA agent or something.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of iterations of that character as well.
Okay.
I don't think Ned's becoming Hobgoblin, though. I would feel...
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Strange. And like, I guess I'm not interested in seeing that, like, either. Like, again, something I liked about the Jean Grey stuff, even though I do feel like the end of this movie is very rushed and they try to have like 9 pieces of cake and eat them too, like based on like, he saves her with the power of May's words from beyond the grave. And then, the Punisher lines up a shot he couldn't possibly see. And then we don't see the shot, but then the shot gets him and then he's dead. Wait, no, he's not dead. He's alive. We got to have the moment where we're sad because Spider-Man's dead, but he's not dead. And then he's in a hospital with his mask off and no one seems to give a fuck. And then he walks out and there's a funny thing and he's waving. And I like that nice moment based on a character moment for Peter Parker to be able to enjoy people seeing Spider-Man, but him not being Spider-Man. That's very nice. But other than that, it's too much. It's hat on a hat on a hat on a hat. And I just wish they picked a lane. There's 4 good options here. Like, just pick one and move your movie that way. Yeah, that's my final thought. the ending felt very rushed to me, and it was like 4 endings.
Yeah. I'll let Tandy have the final word on this one, but I mean, I liked the movie well enough in the parts that I was interested in, and then in the parts I was less interested in, I was like, well, it's not the movie's not ruining the entire experience here. It's fine. And it's not in this real glut of Marvel movies where it feels like this is the only conversation we're having to have every couple of weeks. You know, in this year, The Odyssey and Obsession are generating more interest and more conversation. You know, I was going to raise the Emily Wilson articles today, but I think perhaps we'll save it for another day. But, you know, like there are other things outside of Marvel which are occupying space, which means that this can exist within its own confines and just be what it is. I think both of your framings as this as a quintessential, you know, like Marvel comic movie in terms of like how you would read the actual comic books, I think is the right way to read it. And I think, you know, Daniel Destin Cretton does a really great job. I enjoyed this much more than the Shang-Chi movie at this stage. And, you know, like I would be interested to see what the X-Men movie is at this point, but I'm also like, I don't need to see it. It's just more like, yeah, sure. If he's doing it and this is where they're heading with it, I'm sure I'll check in whenever that time comes. But yeah, Tandy, what are your any final thoughts on Spider-Man: Brand New Day?
Yes. So like I said, this is for me my favorite of the live action movies. Something that I didn't say earlier is that I am actually none of the Spider-Man movies are among my favorite comic book films. Not even this one. Like, I like it a lot. I think it's really good, but none of the Spider-Man movies are among my favorite comic book movies. So as successful as this is, it still hasn't broken into that for me. Maybe if I watch it again, maybe it will. Who knows? The other thing is kind of like a quick question. Tom Holland's accent in this movie has escalated to the point where he sounds like Peter Falk's Columbo. Do New Yorkers sound like Peter Falk's Columbo?
Well, if he wasn't ordering Little Caesars every night, I would probably buy it as Peter, you know, as like something like that.
His accent also changes when he's Peter Parker or when he's Spider-Man. Like, it's funny in this movie more than any of the others. When he's Spider-Man, he takes on essentially like the affect of an older dude in Queens. Like it's almost like Peter Parker is pretending to sound like what he knows older men in Queens sound like, and then he just sounds like a kid from, like, there's a different affect of the level of Queens. Like,
I would really recommend watching Back to the Future again in terms of like the calibration of Michael J. Fox's Marty McFly and how that certain like gee whiz quality to the performance is what like Tom Holland brings to the character, and it actually like. It's really hard to pull off because, you know, as one of my trivia questions pointed out, that Michael J. Fox was not the first person cast to be Marty McFly and was replaced because somebody else just couldn't quite get that sort of like convincing, gee whiz, gosh darn it, Doc kind of vibe right within a movie. It's a very hard thing to pull off. And I think and so when I make that comparison between Tom Holland and Michael J. Fox, it's not pejorative. It's actually like, oh, that's a really hard thing to do, and it's a hard thing to do well, and it's kind of amazing that he does. So, you know, the New Yorker of it, yeah, he's an English dude playing a New Yorker, eating Little Caesars, but you know, it is what it is.
Does that answer the accent question?
Yeah.
Kind of, yes. I think he probably does sound like a real New Yorker. It's just it's a dramatic change from how he has done it in the other movies.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
And I definitely can see the Michael J. Fox correlation, but I think that has more to do with who Tom Holland is than choices that he's making, because he has that he just has that energy.
He has that energy, yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this has been the only podcast about the film Spider-Man: Brand New Day. Tandy, Jonathan Blade, thank you so much for joining us. Finally, 10 years in the making. It's almost as if you're our Jean Grey right now.
Am I going to destroy the podcast? Is that what's going on?
No, you're going to save it with the power of friendship. Where can folks find you and all the wonderful things you do?
I am Jonathan Blade on all the things, JOHN. I am addicted to social media, so you can find me on Blue Sky and Threads and Instagram. YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel that's fallow right now, but that's where all this user created media started for me. So I'm everywhere.
I had a question. Your handle, Jonathan Blade, is that a reference to Eternal Champions?
That is correct.
Hell yeah! I love it. All right, sorry, Shahir. When I'm not referencing a fighting game that tried to eat Mortal Kombat's lunch, where can folks find you?
You can find me finishing him at my website at suvanova.com. That's SUVANOVA. Matt, when you are finally... when you are ordering like 10 Little Caesars pizzas to come over to my place, where can people find you?
You can find me with all that pizza over at my website, Extra History or Extra Credits over on the YouTube machines. I believe by the time this comes out, the episode, one of my favorite one-offs in a long time, it's on the Bone Wars. It's two paleontologists who did more for the science of paleontology, both positively and negatively, because they hated each other so much. They just kept trying to fight each other and out-dino each other, to the point where there's rumors, actually pretty well substantiated, that one of them found some bones, knew they couldn't dig them up in time before the other guy found them, so he blew them up with dynamite. like these two are assholes, and it's such a fun, weird story.
It's the prestige of paleontology.
It's the prestige of paleontology, precisely. Anyway, we'll be back at you next week with a movie.
I'm not sure what's coming out right now, but there's an opportunity to see some things that we've been meaning to catch up on as well. I know The End of Oak Street is coming out that we should probably check out, is referring to dinosaurs as well. Write us in, onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, if you want a used copy of Back to the Future, write us in with the answer to these two questions, which is, what was the original title of Back to the Future, and who was the actor originally cast as Marty McFly? And I will happily send you a copy of Back to the Future. But now that I've been shamed for sending the used, perhaps I might even send you the new one. I don't know.
Don't back down now. Don't let me
I'll make a last minute call. Who knows? You never know which direction I'm going to go. Forward, backwards, into the future. Who knows?
Wow. All right. Tony, thank you very much once again for joining us.
Thank you. The MK2 hater was me.
And we'll talk at y'all next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.